depending on where in the world you are. Welcome to Thematic Session 1 of the Sanitation Workers Forum, where we will be discussing marginalisation and representation of sanitation workers. And our aim today is to be focusing on really the changing terminology that has been used to describe sanitation work and workers, and the persistent forms of stigma and discrimination that many workers are still facing. And we're thrilled to be joined by 5 esteemed speakers, 4 who will share 5-minute talks, and a 5th who will be facilitating a Q&A session for us. And throughout this session, we will be raising important questions around representation of workers at national and international level, and the ongoing struggles to be recognised as an essential workforce. So Sally, can we go on to the next slide if possible, please?
This is just the background main slide, Maisie.
Okay, no problem. So just before we get started, I just wanted to remind everybody that you can add your questions, comments and reflections in the chat box throughout. We do have interpretation available, so if we have any Francophone attendees, please make sure that you click interpretation at the bottom of your screen and select the French channel. All of our presentations will be in English today, so please make sure you are on French if that is your language of choice. We will have plenty of time for questions and reflections, and you're also invited to share any comments that you have in the chat box, but also on our Hoover platform and via our Twitter account, which you can see the handle and hashtag for at the bottom. So without any further ado, I will pass over to our first speaker in this session this morning, Dr. Sheeva Dubey, who is the Assistant Professor at the School of Media and Journalism at D.Y. Patil International University, Pune, India. And Dr. Sheeva Dubey will speak to us for 5 minutes on the topic of deconstructing the anti-manual scavenging discourse in India. So Dr. Sheeva, I will pass over to you now. Thank you very much.
Hi, so I'm turning on my video, but I think I should turn it off if my voice is to stay clear, because I'm not using any Wi-Fi or anything. So you'll see me again later. That's one thing. Other thing is I shared my presentation. So would it be possible for any one of you to share that on screen, because my laptop is somehow not catching the hotspot?
Hello, yes, Sheeva, I will do that right now. One moment.
Sure, thank you.
You should be able to see that, and please just let me know when you want slide changed.
Sure. Thank you. So Scott is not here. Dr. Scott Milon is my co-author in this paper, and I'll just straight away get into it because we have very less time. Here we are trying to look at the entire discourse on manual scavenging, especially the critical discourse, the anti-manual scavenging discourse going on in India, that's taking up most of the space when we talk about the topic. And we see that there are some patterns to it. Can you change the slide, please? Yes. So we are talking about serious discussion happening on the topic at present. And what we notice is that most of them do agree that, manual scavenging is bad, it should be ended. And I'm assuming that all the people in the audience are already aware what's manual scavenging. So I'm not getting into that. But what we noticed was that there are some finer differences, and they have different ontological roots. So within those discourses, there's common ontological roots, where they're deriving their logic from, their rationality from, but the kind of discourses we have identified stand very different from each other, which is what I'm going to present. And we argue that it is important to look at these because these are not non-important. They're having an impact on how the problem is being framed, how manual scavenging is getting problematized, and therefore also the effect is on how manual scavenging is tried to be solved, what sort of solutions are visualized or attempted. So we'll get into these independent discourses right away. Next slide, please. Yes, the first is, of course, a Gandhian perspective, which many of us here are well aware of. As Mr. Gandhi and his ideas of what manual scavenging is, at the root of it, his understanding is that the caste system is not a problem. The problem is only that manual scavenging is seen as something to be associated with untouchability, something that should cause stigma. So thus he says that, he said that manual scavenging need not be abandoned. In fact, it's good. There are people who can take care of human health if you look deeper into it. And he said that instead what we should address is how many scavengers are seen in the society. So the solution for Mr. Gandhi was not any social movement or not strikes by unions of sanitation workers. He believed in the theory of trusteeship. So he believed that elite would take care of the poor, the marginalized on their own. They need not be reminded. Instead, he asked manual scavengers to Brahminize themselves, improve their lifestyles, habits, eating whatever cuisine items they eat, stop meat eating and all that. So the strategy here we see is that of a spiritualization and veneration of the community of manual scavengers. There is also a greater attempt to, assimilate them into the Hindu fold. The current contemporary followers of this perspective we see are Sulabh International and Swachh Bharat Mission. These are the major ones, then there are many, many others as well. Yes, next slide, please. Yes, this is again in stark contradiction to the Gandhian perspective. The Ambedkarite framework, also coming from very theoretical roots, is a clear understanding that manual scavenging is coming from the problem of caste, which is there throughout Hindu religion. And therefore, as long as, according to Dr. Ambedkar, as long as there is the caste system in Hinduism, there will be exploitation. So for him, manual scavenging is coming from this very caste-based exploitation, which he also looks at as forced labor. And for him, as long as such caste-based employment continues, there will be exploitation. So he suggested that there should be a complete annihilation of the caste system. Even the sanctity of the sacred text in Hinduism should be challenged. He also asked for or called for political self-representation and leadership of manual scavenging communities. So that was for him a must of how things can be changed or transformed. So here we see a strategy of awareness building, organizing, leadership, and instead, as against the Gandhian perspective, taking the manual scavenging community out of the Hindu fold. If you look at the whole religious conversion which he started. And the organizations at present that are following this sort of framework are Safai Karmchari Andolan, Navsarjan, Rashtriya Garima Abhiyan. Next slide, please. Now, this is a third type of approach, which is getting more and more prominent lately. We call it the human rights perspective. Here, the focus is on violation of human rights. So the images of man as scavengers deep down in sewer waste, without any clothes or protection on them, are basically feeding into this narrative. Um, it's it's also somehow so much focusing on violation of human rights that the whole caste angle is completely ignored in this discourse. So when they say that manual scavenging is problematic and it should be ended, what they mainly say is that the point where humans are coming in physical contact with sewer waste or human waste, that is what should be ended. And the other thing is when humans lose their lives cleaning sewer waste, that should be ended. But beyond that, within this discourse, there's not much, because the solution stops there. The solution stops at physically separating waste from humans. So they don't find any need to challenge the caste system. They don't even talk about much self-representation of the community. And the most of the solution is sought in government action, government law and policy. So we find this a very top-driven, expert-led sort of approach, which is also at the same time very caste-blind. And we find these patterns in the works of Water Aid India and Dalberg. Next slide, please. Yes, this is the last major discourse we've identified. When we say labor rights approach, basically we are talking about the perspectives of the workers themselves. So people engaged in manual scavenging. These voices are not present in the mainstream media or academia where we read and write, but they do have voices. And to those who go out and talk to them, they will understand that these people do understand, the workers are, they do understand that the problem is coming from the caste system, and they also understand exactly how their labor rights are being violated. Yes, on manual scavenging, they definitely wanted to end, but they also want better facilities and decent wages at the same time. So livelihood is a very tangible concern for them. They want their livelihood, but they are open to rehabilitation. They want dignified lives. What they don't want is kind of solutions that completely leave them deprived of livelihood. Because they are working with practical problems. They have their families to take care of. The kind of solutions they aspire are, they do organize, unionize, and they do want to collectively bargain for their rights. And they also want to ensure, whatever, if they are staying in the sanitation sector, their livelihoods are secured. If they are moving to any other sector, it is sustainable. They are not given solutions that are very temporary. And a large part of the workers community is focusing on education of their children so that their future generation doesn't get into the same work. Strategy here we see that out of all the practical or experience that they have been having since past few decades in India, they are taking a very piecemeal approach to changes. So when we look at policy making, we see that there is an approach called incremental policy making. So somehow they're approaching on that side, and they have very tangible concerns at present. So for example, in the COVID time, the concern was that their safety should be taken care of first. So like that, depending on whatever they are dealing with at present, very basic needs, they focus on that. Currently, not many organized or institutional spaces to raise their voices, but trade unions do. Next slide, please. So we conclude by saying that there's no single approach that addresses all aspects, But definitely, at the foundation, we propose that the Ambedkarite framework should be taken. But also when we talk about effective change and implementation of whatever approach is adopted, the labor rights approach is needed to guide in practice. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Sheeva, for kicking us off with this opening talk. And I think really rooting the discussion that we're going to have later on in the discourse, and giving us a fantastic overview of the situation in India. So I'm sure there will be lots of questions on the points that you have highlighted in our discussion later. So I'm now thrilled to introduce our second speaker of this session this morning, Prabha Pokhrel. So Prabha is a NGO worker and social anthropologist from Nepal, and will be talking to us about the Brown Gold project in Gulariya Municipality and how marginality, sanitation and wastewater challenges that are being faced. So Prabha, you have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Hello, can you put on the slide, please? Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you.
So what I want to share is like the current massive sanitation drives and rapid urbanization coupled to make safely managed sanitation in urban areas one of the world's most urban challenges, which goes beyond access to toilet to include adequate fecal sludge management, utilizing appropriate infrastructure for sewerage and wastewater collection treatment, as well as gender, class, and related exclusion in relation to sanitation. Issues concerning water contamination, gender, equity, and sustainability are concerned to be the second and third generation challenges of sanitation. The initiative towards brown gold, reimagining off-grid sanitation in rapidly urbanizing areas in Asia and Africa, explores rethinking the off-grid city with its focus on addressing marginality, sanitation, and wastewater challenges in 5 growing towns comprising Wa in Ethiopia, Mekelle of Tigray, Ghana, Nandit and Alleppey from India, and Nepal's Gulariya. Can you go to second slide, please? So in the second slide, I want to take you to Gulariya, which is a rapidly urbanizing municipality adjacent to India and moving towards total sanitation after the ODF declaration in 2015. And it was the first in Tarai of Nepal. The municipality's area of 119 square kilometers is inhabited by heterogeneous groups consisting 36% of Tharus, 20% of Madhesi, 14% of Dalit, 12% Muslims, living in 13,831 households, where 95% of the household use toilet and 5% either share or defecate openly. It's a lowland and river basin area, mostly flooded each year during monsoon. Being the transit for the business from India to West Nepal and agriculture producing area, the flow of people is high. The municipality also possesses an established Center for Solid Waste Management and Fecal Sludge Treatment Plant currently being operated by a private contractor. Please go to the next slide. The study's objective to investigate challenges and opportunities for the improvement of sanitation and waste management services aims to support municipalities and marginalized communities by recommending their increased access to quality services and the optimum use of resources from waste. After an extensive literature review documenting the status of the system, our extensive field data collection was accomplished. It used tools produced from learnings from all wider initiative partners and fits in the research framework developed for the Brown Gold project. A total of 173 directly responded through an introductory workshop, including open discussion and specific theme by relevant actors and accumulated by an expert panelist. Most marginalized group views are collected by 7 FGDs with squatter community, sanitation worker, Dalit community, Muslim community, Tharu community, entrepreneurs, and Madhesi community. 11 KIIs provided information based on the semi-structured questionnaire from key persons verified by observation and sample test of different points of FSTP. Can we go to next slide, please? It was found that 10 ton daily solid waste produces, among which 3 ton was collected using 70 staffs only to 4 wards out of 12 wards in that municipality. For FSTP, there are 3 types of waste management system: the government, contractor, owned, private, and self. As you see in the slide, the government system, that among the 3 systems, the government system have a good infrastructure with human resource. The cost is defined and used, and the treatment is ongoing, but there is no safety, very minimal safety, only gloves and sometimes boots. And it's a well-established process, and it covers mostly only the 5, 6, 7 wards of the municipality, which is the urban area. As you see, the private workers, which are mostly the government staffs who work in morning and evening, and some other workers, and they all belong to the 90% of the staff belong to the Bhangi caste, which is was untouchable caste previously, but now it's breaking up. The private sector use buckets and ropes. There are only 1 to 2%. It's not a big group. They charge less. And what they do is dig hole in nearby landfill and cover with soil. So the safety gear is very minimal. None of the either government or the private sector have insurance or health coverage, and they work by personal contacts, and they work mostly in rural and work with the rings. They don't work on mostly not on the safety tanks. But what we found very interesting is people do it themselves. They don't hire a private or a government FST system because they think the government FST system is economically not viable. But they do it themselves. They think it's a low cost or a different thing. And the 50 to 60% of the household in that municipality do it themselves, and it's the same process like the private sector. So the government-owned FSTP is only used by more than 1%, only 1%. So as you see, it's most by self or by private sector. So what we found in equity and marginality is most sanitation workers are from Bhangi caste, 95%, but others are joining in, so making the troubles that only Bhangis do the work. So all castes can access the FSTP system, or all castes do it themselves. The urban poor doesn't want have the capacity to pay much, and the government-owned FSTP doesn't reach many narrow alleys and poor gullies. But it is also seen by the sanitation behavior varies by groups, like the Tharu, which were at the same part before the ODF declaration with Madhesi people, has now adopted better practices of sanitation, and they are better off than the Madhesi groups, which needs more motivation to change their sanitary behavior. They also report that there are no support organization for FSTP management or on-site practices, which were there during the ODF campaign. But we also found that there is very less demand for the support groups. People don't want to raise the issue, and they don't think it's important to raise the issue. We also found that all these groups, all these 3 system groups, have no visualization of health risks, water contamination risks, because the toilet, septic tank, and the toilet and the groundwater level are nearby, but they don't think it's risks. So the policies for marginalized is also there, like in the key users group position, there government has ensured that 2 or 3 of the position will be participated by the marginalized group. And there is a well-structured system for the sanitation campaign from government level, from the federal level to the community level, federal level, provincial level, municipality level, ward level, and toll level. So it also ensures that the sanitation movement goes through a well-established system, and we are thinking that the FSTP also, the on-site sanitation should also go in this way. So and we found that the sanitation system is on-site, mostly with on-sill containment, which poses a high risk of groundwater contamination, where almost all people rely on groundwater for domestic and other purposes. The sanitary workers, MTR, are using only limited or no protective measures while emptying and not covered under any insurance. Citizens are aware of using the toilet but unaware of health hazard due to poor sanitation practices, and thus they are not demanding improvement. The fecal source management is located inside the community forest, compromising a good location, basic infrastructure, but minimal synchronization of structures and governance is observed for sustainability and optimum recovery of resources. There is a biogas plant being built at the final stage of construction, intending to process the organic waste with fecal source, but there is no plan for the utilization of methane. But it was also found that the gradual improvement of sanitation system, together with the use of water treatment techniques such as the use of biosand filter, has contributed to reducing waterborne diseases significantly. The sanitary practice of different caste people vary, and the Madhesya group needs to improve their sanitation practices. Tharu people who are farmers empty the septic tap themselves, and they also make the biogas plant, utilize the product as fertilizer in their farm through the handling process is unhygienic. Muslim and Madhesya people use external emptier through they inform it is difficult to afford toilet construction. The key concern is safeguarding sanitation workers who are not covered by any insurance and have limited or no protective measures while emptying cells. Can we go to the next slide for the challenges? The fecal slush plant, which is built, is only semi-functional right now because it is being connected to the biogas plant. While its construction is a promising step, poor governance means that the sustainability and resource recovery of the plant has much room for improvement. The legal contact with forest units and all-weather road with space for expansion and government willingness opportunity to manage it is promising. The call for action is clear. There needs to be urgent investment and innovation to accelerate progress across the sanitation chains, from toilet to the collection, transport and treatment of human waste, as well as people willingness to use not only the services but the products also. Thus, we are exploring key issues. Can we go to this next slide? We are exploring key issues across the sanitation chain to contribute to policy and technology development to manage solid waste and fecal slush, to optimize the recovery of resources where there is the good infrastructure, good, service chain, built-in tax participation, some policies, but a lot of things need to be done, as you see in the adjoining picture. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabha. I know there's so much more that we could talk about on this exciting project, and I'm sure people will have questions as we go into the discussion. But thank you for that overview of the early research in the Brown Gold project. And I think kind of some of the opportunities that are coming from the reimagining, both for the well-being of marginalized communities, but also from an innovation and sustainable sanitation perspective. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to discussing that in more detail later on. So I'm happy to now introduce our third speaker of our session this morning, Festo Dominic Makoba. And whilst we're thrilled that Festo is able to join us live, we actually have a pre-recorded video on the subject of building networks of sanitation workers from the ground up. So Sally, I'm hoping you can help by playing the video now, if possible.
Thanks, Maisie. Yeah, I'll do that right now, and hopefully Festo can add any additional comments if he's able. I think he's out in the field, so there may be some internet challenges, but Festo, please do join us if you can. I'll just play the video now.
Fantastic, thank you.
Can I just check that you could hear that okay?
I didn't have any sound.
Okay, one moment, sorry. Let me just sort that out.
Low-income area.
Fantastic.
We are working with those who are from a low-income area, people who don't have other options. We show them that by engaging in sanitation, through showing them that there is a potential in sanitation, both financially but also improving the health of families as well as the community, become a motivation to engage in sanitation. My name is Festo Dominic Makoba. I work with an NGO, a local NGO called Center for Community Initiatives. In short, normally call it CCI, as water and sanitation engineer. CCI has been working in sanitation in different components, building toilets, construction of facilities, also emptying the toilets, as well as treating the wastewater. We do treatment of the sludge or recycle it into either water for irrigation, but also to generate a biogas, which community end up using the gas for cooking. But also we have projects transporting the wastewater from toilet by using a simpler systems called simplified sewer systems. We don't depend on external contractors to come and do the construction. We opted on training team of communities, men and women, doing construction, actual construction, as well as doing the marketing. The teams that we do have are people whom they have even never been or involved in construction work. And that's why you see we do have very simple technologies that everyone can learn and become a full technician or a builder of sanitation. So we don't preach for complicated sanitation technologies, but the simpler one where men and women can both learn easily and involve without any problem in the construction. Our role actually at CCI is giving skills in a way that they won't compromise with standard, like dimension. For example, the technology that we are using for building toilets by using plastic bottles, it lowers the cost. To make it stronger, we'll fill with sand. Something that also women, they can even do it with their children. You have your bulk of sand there, you bring your kids. So while they are praying, they are making construction material. For superstructure, you just lay your pipes, put those bottles, align them in frames, you end up having your walls. Then you use your toilet. That's number one. Number two, using the trapezoidal blocks. Make these soakaway pits. They are very small in size, consuming a very small amount of cement, but making of those bricks very easy. Anyone can do it. using those materials is also very easy. Women, when they get a tender, when they see that we can't dig a trench on our own, so we can just invite a man to come only to dig a trench for us. The rest of the work, we can do it on our own. Become easier for women, and they earn much even more than men can do. This process takes time for a group actually to mature till when they are capable of doing things their own. But we have the network which from the municipalities, the ward level, and at the settlement level. The ward level are responsible to mentor these new groups, while the municipal level is there to oversee these new groups, and the existing groups are growing and are performing their role as how they have been trained. So it takes time. It's a learning process. They are learning from each other. Once we identify that they are missing this kind of skills, we do some exchange within the region or from outside the region. We even sometimes ask exchange from cross countries, because we have some other federations in Kenya, Uganda, and other African countries. We train the teams within the neighborhood, the specific neighborhoods, but they sometimes go beyond to other settlements. In some, they're actually being even contracted to build household facilities as well as public places. So we have the team of federation technicians whom were given a contract to build the biofield toilets in the game reserve. But also, we trained a team of about 20 women to make interlock blocks for building the toilets. Those women were hired to go and prepare those bricks for building a dormitory. We have women, but normally they are not engaged much in the empty, because we really want to minimize the human contact to the fecal matter. That's why you see we have this kind of biofuel, simplified sewerage, just decent technology which does not expose the human to the fecal matter. We started with the simplified sewerage in Dar es Salaam only with 20 houses. Then we added another scheme of 22 houses. From there, the utility started to realize that smaller innovations can help to improve the situation. The government, the utility in Dar es Salaam, searched for funds from the World Bank to do the scale-up for 500 house connections. So you can see, with smaller innovation that CCI put in place, helped to trigger the interest of the government agents to see that it's true, these things can work and support our communities.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to Festo for sharing that video intervention with us. Festo is joining us in this call, but I think we'll be able to speak and ask him some direct questions in our discussion in a moment. But I think that video really helped to kind of bring to life the fantastic work that Festo and the Centre for Community Initiatives are doing in Tanzania. And also show us how innovative this could be, and it was great to hear at the end some of the growing interest from the government. So thank you, Festo, and I hope you are here now and will be able to join us in the discussion. So finally, I would like to introduce our fourth speaker of this session, Asif Aqil from the Centre for Law and Justice in Pakistan. And Asif is going to be talking to us about the dehumanization or dehumanizing sanitation working conditions and the heroic response of the workers. So Asif, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rose, and giving me this opportunity to share about our research, which Mary James
Asif, sorry to interrupt, and I hope it is not me. I'm having some problems hearing you.
Already know her. She's and running a hearing me shouldn't be, but my mic is on, or maybe this, is it better now? Hello?
It's working much better now, and perhaps if it continues to get worse, you can shut the video off. Thank you.
Okay, let me turn it off if that can help. Please see now. That is it better voice or something? I can change my laptop. This is actually the first such online
No worries
program.
at all. We can hear you
It's
loud and clear.
okay. That's great. Okay, so I was sharing that in 2019, Mary James Gill and I conducted research, which is pioneer of its nature in Pakistan. The research is named Shame and Stigma in Sanitation. It further explains that competing faiths and compromised dignity, safety, and employment security of sanitation workers in Pakistan. So it's mainly around three things which I'll be sharing. We conducted a survey in Lahore, which is capital of the Punjab province. And we, in the survey, included 102 respondents, both from doing sewer cleaning and those who pick up trash. There were only 6 respondents were women, because this is mainly men's job in Pakistan, unlike in India and other countries. And women only, you can say, sweep roads and not beyond, like collecting trash, transporting it, or cleaning sewer lines. This all is done by men. Our more than 90% of respondents were Christian, because it is considered mainly a work of non-Muslims, which I'll be again sharing in a minute. Why it is more about religion and caste. You can see that in Lahore, the Lahore Waste Management Company, it has 9,000 workers and all of them are Christian. Then the other government agency, Water and Sanitation Agency, WASA, it has 2,400 sewer cleaners and 1,600 of them are Christian. So there is overlapping of caste and religion and marginality and shame and stigma in this occupation. What we found in our work was that this is hazardous and unhygienic work. Sanitation workers, most of them were having skin disease, asthma, tuberculosis, and then it's a dangerous work because there is no use of or very little use of protective gear. So they can have injuries and they are exposed to such like blade, sharp or broken glass or needle. And then the third thing we found that is a life-threatening work. Both sewer cleaners, they die while opening sewer lines deep in a manhole. And also those who were picking trash, they had road accidents. Only in 2019, in Lahore alone, 70 workers died. Then we also found that this work is of precarious nature. Workers are not regularized. They work like 16 years or 20 years, but they are engaged on a monthly or 3 months contract. And then in the end of the day, they not even get peanuts out of this work. So these are the 4, 5 major aspects of the work that we found. But one most important thing was that there was, which doesn't cost money, was related to dignity. And we found that sanitation workers are treated as untouchable. They are considered like filth. They are people avoid coming in close contact with them. So this is the situation that we found in our research. Workers are not provided safety equipment. There is no training and safety protocols. There is no mechanism for recording the injury and death of sanitation workers. There is no medical facility and vaccination. In the end, uh, they are not regularized, which I have shared, and their salaries are delayed even for months often, so that there is no regular work and their remuneration could be attached. In Pakistan, sanitation is descent-based work. Most of the sanitation workers come from the most marginalized backgrounds. And this is marginality. Their marginality is being used as a way to keep them in this occupation. Uh, at the same time, not just marginalization, like in India, it's like descent based like India, but Pakistan has gone one step further. It has made it a state sponsored religious issue. The Pakistani state requires only non-Muslims to join sanitation labor because it involves ritually polluting activities. Muslim workers under economic rigors, if they join the job, they refuse to perform their duty. Our research showed that Muslim workers believed that sanitation work was only for non-Muslims. And secondly, we also found that those who were working, they almost all of them were coming from Dalit origin. Even if they are Christian, they are the people who come from Dalit background. For example, the one word sanitation worker and the word Christian, and the third word, caste word, Chuda, which is a highly pejorative term, uh, which means sweeper, are actually synonymous in everyday language, or are interchangeable. Across the country, either these are Christians or scheduled caste Hindus who come, meaning the word non-Muslim should be read as caste, scheduled caste Hindus or Christians, because there are other minorities and no one expects them working. In the face of all these odds, sanitation workers are committed to their work. During the coronavirus pandemic, they kept providing service. Not just this, when one worker gets fainted in a manhole while unclogging a sewer line, others go after him. In most cases, the workers who go after saving the first fainted worker, they die, and the one who was the first one, his life is saved. So they are quite like soldiers who die for others. I give you just one example. On October 3, a sanitation worker in Sargodha, which is about 200 kilometers from Lahore, Michael Massey got fainted of poisonous gases in a manhole. They were working at around 11 p.m. That day was Sunday. They had no other, they had no assignment. It was holiday, and Michael was actually suspended because he had been refusing going down the manhole. So the three workers were working on three separate manholes. Michael Massey, when he fainted, his supervisor called Nadeem Massey and Faisal Massey, these two went after him. They managed to send Michael out of the manhole, but they until then had been overpowered by this poisonous gases, and they actually not fainted. Because if the gas wasn't that strong that they could faint, rather they were wriggling with pain and shouting for help. The Punjab Emergency Rescue Service staff arrived, but they refused going down the manhole, despite the fact they were well equipped, they had training, and they had oxygen oxygen cylinder and mask, but they refused. And then after 3-4 hours, another sanitation worker, Shabazz Massey, he went down the manhole and brought the two bodies of the workers out. In all the names, you might have noticed that their surname is Massey. They are not relatives, but Massey comes from Messiah. And this is exactly what our research found, that those who are working deep down in manholes, they are most of the time are non-Muslim. And then, in one such incident that took place in 2017, like 1,200 kilometers from Lahore in Umarkot, another sanitation worker who was supervisor, actually, he went down saving his two fellows, and he died, and those two survived. His name was Irfan Masi, and since then, Mary James Gill, who was then parliamentarian, she realized and she found it very disturbing, and she started a wonderful campaign named Sweepers Are Superhero. So this campaign is successfully has made inroads in government. We have, through this campaign, been able to make people realize that the first thing, which is not costing any money, that is giving respect to these workers, realizing that they are human beings. And there is, the first thing is bringing dignity and respect in this work. And what we suggest and have found, there are many recommendations we have given, but mainly 3, 4 are important. The one, there is need to de-link religion and caste with the sanitation work. And even above all, there is need to bring dignity to this work. Dignity of labor needs to be introduced. Then the ILO's decent work agenda needs to be introduced. We are also proposing that unionization of the sanitation workers is essential because they have no voice. Before our work, there was not a single union of workers. We have been able to start one in Lahore, but that needs to be done, replicated across Pakistan. There's also a third thing which we are proposing is we need to understand more about sanitation workers. We need to profile them from across Pakistan. We found that most of the places there is an element of religion and caste, but then there are areas like in north, which is most of Pashtun belt, there are things a bit different. And then in our another province, Koita, things are a little different. We want to understand how there is need to understand, and we are working on it, that how they are working, what are their shed flow diagram. So we want to work more on it. So this is from me. If there be any question, I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing those very poignant and horrifically sad cases and stories with us, and also the pioneering research on shame and stigma that you've been working on, and those heroic responses of workers. And I can see as well that Mary James Gill has joined us in this call this morning. So welcome, Mary. And we're really looking forward to having you as a keynote speaker on a session on Wednesday, where we can be discussing some of this even more. So a huge thank you to all 4 of our speakers for sharing their perspectives on this important topic. I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Hamangi Kadlak, who is an assistant professor at the School of Social Sciences and Languages of Vellore Institute of Technology in Tamil Nadu, India. And Dr. Hamangi will be sharing some of her own reflections and also facilitating a question and answer and discussion session. So please do add any of your reflections, comments or questions in the chat box. So Dr. Hamangi, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mosi, and thank you, this forum, Sanitation Workers Forum, for giving me this opportunity to have a reflection on the topics which we discussed just now, and facilitating the question and answer session. So as we have got the mixed papers, there are 4 papers, or there are 4 work one can see. The first work that is Dr. Sheeva Dubey,
and her work is more on a theoretical basis. And another these three work, that is Prabha from Nepal, and then Tanzania, and then Asi from Pakistan. So they are more on a primary study kind of thing, and which gives you some kind of problem, the understanding of the problem of sanitation workers in their own contextual geographical area, and how they come up with the solution. And that is a very fantastic work that they are really doing. So as we start with the first panelist, that is Sheeva Dubey, she highlighted some of the theoretical kind of understanding on some kind of framework for this, giving this sanitation workers problem. So the first, she started with the critical discourse with the of the manual scavengers in India, and she has given some kind of framework, the scavengers in a framed and problematic matters. That is, the first is a Gandhian perspective. As we all understand or have studied the Gandhian perspective, and what was his core argument when we talk about the sanitation workers. So as the Gandhi was a pro caste and pro Avarna system, and therefore he was not having any objection to carry the sanitation workers by a lower caste people, that is from generations they have been carried. So that is one framework she gave to us. Another is Ambedkarite perspective, which talks about the caste, anti-caste, that is annihilation of the caste. Unless you annihilate the caste, you cannot take out this sanitation workers, and it has a root in the caste and Hindu religious caste-based and Varna system. So she gave finally she gave a solution how, if we really want to annihilate or to come out from this caste-based sanitation work, then we have to adopt this Ambedkarite framework or Ambedkarite perspective. Third is a human rights perspective. As human rights, we all are human, and human rights come from your natural rights. So as a human being, we have natural rights, and it became your human rights. So those who are maybe in a sanitation worker, or we are not a sanitation workers, everybody carries the natural rights. That is your human rights. So how to live, how to survive, how to feed yourself, how to have a decent life, all it comes under your human rights. And definitely this work gives you some kind of liberty or some kind of the kind of atrocity on the human rights, and then how we can protect these human rights by giving some kind of legal and some kind of job security or the protection of human rights. And she gave some of the NGOs, also some of the organizations who works on different perspectives. So that I will not discuss one by one. But and then the last is a labor rights perspective, as these are all our laborers, the fourth class or the down class laborers, though whoever works, maybe in the higher class or higher occupation or a lower occupation, everybody is labor, but in a different categories. They have different definition, they have different operational definition for when we talk about labor. So when we talk about the contextualizing or giving a focus on sanitation workers, so definitely they are manual workers who we call them a unskilled worker, but again we have to problematize this term unskilled workers. I believe that they all are skilled workers. I cannot do work what they are doing. I cannot go in the manhole. I don't know, I will die. But these people are doing from generations. So definitely they have certain skills which is untaught, which is not, it has not given them a training. So we have to really give some kind of, we have to see that who are the skilled workers and who are the unskilled workers. So I always argue on this kind of term. So this is what is labor's rights approach she highlighted. And then she finally gave a solution, Ambedkarite and labor rights approach. If you adopt, then definitely we'll find some kind of solution for this problem. Another is Prabha Pokhrel. She's working with, I think, some of the NGO, and it is more of a practical based kind of primary data-based work, and they have been doing, as we have seen her photo also while doing this work. And she highlighted some of the methodology like focus group discussion and the interviews. The core what, if you conclude, or if you take one trait from all the papers or from all the work except Festo, so these, everybody talked about the caste. The basis of this work is a caste. Maybe this is Prabha Pokhrel, she talked about the Bhangi caste. So there also in Nepal also, this profession, this work is based on your caste. That's what and there are a lot of problems we know already, that what the sanitation workers are going through, and how to come up from this problem. She has given some of the solutions also, simplified sewage system and simplified sanitation technology and different aspects like these things she highlighted. And so, and the fourth is our Festo, Dominic. So his work is also very fantastic, and what I liked most, the picture which I saw there, the bottles, and from that bottles they are making the toilets, and it is very innovative. And how to, when I was child and we used to teach we used to study that how we can utilize the waste, how you can utilize your waste for best. So this is what I saw when from a waste, how you can utilize or for how you can create a new thing. So that is one good aspect I have seen. And then he has given a lot of the power, the women empowerment, and how the women are taking charge, and how the women are giving a training, and they are also and that's what the best part is, that women are doing this quarry work or maybe the brick work. So this is one kind of that how women are also being part of this work. Another is Asif Akul. So here he more talked on the problem, and his work is more he talked on more two different areas. One is a caste and religion, how caste and religion correlate, and the caste, this is what Chura here is also there in India, same caste. And the religion religion comes later, but your caste comes first, and therefore you are in this particular work. And he talked about the same problems which we have seen from generations here, and we have studied in the academics and in the ground. So, and then he has given some kind of different how we have to delink the caste and religion, and then we can find the solution, then dignified the labor and urbanization of sanitation workers. So there are the holistic kind of different studies, and in a different context and different perspective. But one thread I could understand from all these speakers, that one is your caste factor is same, and that's what, like, I always I want to work with this South Asia people, because these all sanitation workers are facing one problem, that is the generational caste-based occupation, and the caste is the main factor for this continuation of work. So, and thank you for it, and for giving this opportunity to listen to you and to hear your and to understand your work. Thank you. And yes, question and answer, if question and answer is there, so we can go ahead with the questions. Okay, so shall I start with the question?
That would be fantastic, Hamangi. I can see that some have come in from the chat box.
Yeah.
So please do go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the question which I can see here, it is to the Dr. Sheeva Dubey. Could the Ambedkarite movement principles be translated to other country and socio-cultural context, for example, on self-representation and self-organization? So this question has come from Sally. Yes, Dr. Sheeva Dubey.
Hi, thank you for the question. Definitely the principles of self-representation and all can be adopted anywhere and across the world. I think new social movements and other movements have told us very well, and the whole idea of democracy, participation. I come from a background in communication, so in communication for social change and development, that theoretical discourse as well. While earlier there was a top-down approach, now it's all about bottom-up communication, what people are saying, what people want for themselves, representation, participation. So this is something which is globally there, and it's these days efforts are judged on the basis of how genuine participation was of the communities that are most affected. So definitely that is there. However, see, Dr. Ambedkar's understanding of the caste system came from very, very, very deep study of the Indian society and the dominant religion here. So he went directly to the books that Hinduism preaches or follows, and he studied Manusmriti, he studied other books, Vedas, whatnot. So I don't know how much of that is transferable to other communities and other societies. It has to be seen, it has to be studied, how much of it can be adopted, used, and how much is still different. Because even when we compare caste with race, there are similarities, but as well as that, there are differences. I mean, everything cannot be absolutely compared and kept at the same platform always. I hope I've answered your question.
Here, can I add one thing?
Sure.
With this,
yes, Dr. Anand,
yeah, Dr. Shi. So here, yes, definitely Dr. Ambedkar's principles and his thinking has gone across the borders of country. There is a Hungary country, and in the Hungary country, they have a Ambedkarite school, and they follow the Ambedkarite principles, and even the schools are also being called as Ambedkarite school. And even other part of country, maybe they are from the same caste community or from the other those mostly the race people, Afro-American people. And when I went US, so I have seen these people, they adopted Ambedkarite perspective. At the same time, they adopted the Buddhism also. So these people, and they now work as a community, and they work for the annihilation of caste. At the same time, they work on the race. So definitely there are people who follow the Ambedkarite principles, even they follow the Buddhism. So yes. So here one more comment I am seeing. So it is, I think, from Sally only. So she appreciated Asif. Thank you for sharing the report, Asif, and very important resource. So another is, yeah. So Julian Walker, to all presenters, the presentation looked at some important ways of improving the status of sanitation workers. For example, the challenging linkages between sanitation work, discriminated against identities, political representation of workers, technological change to change the nature of sanitation work, professionalization of sanitation workers, and legal provisions for decent work, etc. Which strategy have you found to be the most productive starting point to improve the dignity of sanitation workers? Yeah, so I think this question is for all presenters. So yeah, as per your own convenience, you can start. Yes.
If someone else is not ready, I can begin.
Yes,
Okay,
sure.
thank you. One thing that we have found very useful is that we we take the sanitation workers and in a group, taking them to the higher authorities or having a program where both of them are present, and they discuss what are their challenges. It has helped. Secondly, we have been using social media, and that has been very helpful. It has uh, what we were doing there. One, we have been posting the stories of shame and stigma, making people realize that those who pick their garbage, they also suffer from the dirty identity. And thousands of people on our uh, Twitter account and on Facebook, they responded that this is not something good. The result is that many people now, when we started back in 2017, we had a huge backlash, especially from the Christian community. They thought that we are promoting this work among their people, while they wanted that all the Christians should simply quit these jobs. But then there were two things which Mary James came up with. One was that, after all, at least someone has to do this work in society. If not Christian, then who else? Then there will be Muslim or Hindu or lower caste or upper caste, meaning we always be in need of having sanitation work done. So that's not the solution that some people be asked that you don't do this work. Second thing was that there is need to bring respect, and that is by making or presenting them as human beings, that they feel they have families, they suffer. When their death take place, what happens to the rest of the family? When they are working, what type of injuries and other things they suffer? And that is how we humanize the workers, who before this work were always an invisible force. So we gave them visibility. Until 2017, on May 1, Labor Day, all the workers who were doing like in fields or in mines and other things, there were no mention of sanitation workers, because no one wanted to discuss about them. No media gave coverage to them. We are still facing this, and their deaths meant that they deserved it. And this idea, we are challenging that why do they deserve? That they are the most marginalized, they are the poorest, which is why they deserve. So making this profession humane, respectable, and bringing their stories of death and disease to people, we are humanizing it and connecting them with the people and making people challenge the current scenarios. I can give several stories, but I just want to say that we have been successfully making some change in the society. Not absolutely all the work is done. We have just begun, but we have seen being recognized by several people from top to bottom. We have received good response. Thank you.
Okay, can I add on?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. So in Gulariya, what we found, apart from our perception, is it depends, the status quo depends as per the caste and ethnicity. Like in Tharu community, they don't think they have to hire Bhangi to do it. They do it themselves. Most of the people, for 50 to 60%, do it themselves of their house, not others' house. And the perspective that came up is like, it's not only for a caste. So slowly now Tharu people and other people, are coming in it, taking it as a profession. And the Bhangi also are being upgraded as a truck driver, as the slurry driver. So the change is there. Like we found two Brahmin women who were separating the waste, solid waste. So there is slowly a notion that coming up that it should not be, it is not work of the same caste, but it should be coming up as a profession, as a work, as a job. So that is one thing that we found out there, which is changing. And we also saw it changing, that they are not termed as untouchables, complete untouchables. They can take the water inside any home, go inside. So it's slowly changing with government giving them job, making them employee, and treating them as such. And other people slowly coming in the limelight, that people are doing for themselves also. So it's not a work of one caste only. So that was something that we found did work to decrease the stigma.
Hello?
Yeah,
Can I also add something?
yeah, please.
The strategy that CCI we are using actually is through mobilizing the sanitation worker to form like an association, or it's like a CBO, which we encourage them, or we mobilize them to a stage that they are registered by the authority, if it's a municipal, and being recognized. So that's helps even to secure some support from the government if they need, as well as their rights. Because sometimes you see sanitation worker, if you work as an individual, you might go and work in someone's property or premises, and he mistreats you, and will be having no one to of course it might be tricky for you to get your rights easily. But if you are like in an association, apart from being stigmatized, but also it you can attract support and get your rights easily in that way. So that's what I can say, that that's one of the strategies CCI have been using, of mobilizing this sanitation worker to form groups or like a CBO, and being registered in the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Festo. Dr. Sheeva, you want to add?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to say that I find political self-representation to be most effective. I've seen very marginalized communities and their groups gain far more confidence and ability to collectively negotiate than anything else among those listed. About professionalization, I in fact have some reservations, because in India we see this whole trend of privatization, professionalization, and it's very obvious when you look at highly professionalized sanitation workers, that they don't even have the kind of control over their work, their ability to refuse to work, like other relatively free workers have. So they're more bound by the system. They're more domesticated, I'm using from feminist language, and tamed down by this whole institutionalization that they go through. So yeah, this is what I would like to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Andres. The question is a question for Dr. Sheeva Dubey. What does she thinks of tactical use of different framings? For instance, an organization that in principle agrees with the Ambedkarite approach, but decides to use a technocratic or another framework to get more traction. Example, in trying to approach influence authorities?
It's a strange question because, see, I mean, would you be able to fight racism in its entirety without calling it racism? Would you be able to fight patriarchy in its entirety without calling it patriarchy? And we can see very well how much progress we have made with climate change, because nobody wanted to acknowledge that climate change is happening, that global warming is happening. So we took the watered down or toned down approach. We didn't want to offend people. We didn't want to sound too radical. And here we are. We have worsened the problem. We are no way going to be able to protect our environment the way we know it. Same goes with the caste system. India has had freedom for quite a while now, but nobody wants to call out caste. And in fact, these very, what do you say, Western funded, in real sense, elite organizations do have the ability to raise these issues on international platforms. And when they choose to not do that, when they choose only the technocratic and safe option, we are missing out on real opportunity to make a difference. We have lost a lot of time to problematize caste and to show how deeply it interlinks with everything in this society. So I don't think it's going to help much, with all due respect for all the good work that these organizations have done and are still doing. I think we have to call it what it is. So thank you.
Yeah. So one suggestion came from Andres, like, please, if you start your video, it will be good, at least present us, because my camera is only on, and yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So, okay. Okay. So, okay, one, I think, question came from Nelly. Thank you, Prabha Pokhrel, for sharing this interesting insight on changing the composition of sanitation workers and how this changes the work conditions too and can support improved work conditions. I'm wondering if this would work in Lahore too. If Muslims were hired to perform sanitation work, would this change the work so that it becomes better for all, as sometimes seen with hiring women, and then transforming technologies so that the work becomes lighter, safer?
Thank you very much, Natalie. This is actually, this is a good way to look at. However, what Dr. Sheeva just said, there is need to problematize the caste system related to the sanitation work. So in Pakistan, this is both. First thing is that it is the religious thing, which normally people understand. However, underneath, as I said, the word non-Muslim should be translated as Dalit people, even if they are coming from the Muslim background. Then it would be also like, if we just want, this is what the Christian community wants, that no Christian should be joining this work. But that doesn't help, because if someone else is coming and we are just uh, changing the composition, and we are not pressurizing or pressuring for the change of attitude towards sanitation workers, considering them stigmatized. For example, one in our report we have covered, a Muslim man from Multan, which is about 400 kilometers from Lahore. There, a sanitation worker who is Muslim, his interview was published back in 2014, and he implored, and he said that I am no more. I have memorized the Holy Quran, but now I find myself unable to perform my prayers. So kindly change my job. That was something very from his perspective, as if it is not for Muslim. But then if we bring Muslim, and he said, share this. He said that people, even my relatives, do not like to meet me. Now we have introduced a Muslim, but then people are treating him exactly the same way. So just changing the composition of Muslim and Christian and others, that won't work until we do not problematize the caste system. And we do not see how it is linked with the millennia-old practice. And how then the other thing which has worked in Pakistan is making people realize that caste is not Islamic. There is dignity of work in Islam. And so people who work, they should be respected. So I hope this answers to some extent. Thank you.
I do not understand the Lahore system very well, but what I find is changing the stronghold that has been holding the whole system for so long will be very difficult. And if we only look at one way, then it will be more difficult. So maybe we should be looking at it to penetrate it with different options like composition, and then the legality, and then the perception, like Dr. Asif said, the media outreach and the awareness. So I think we should, in everywhere, we should go with different approaches so that it breaks in small pieces, because it's a big problem and it has been composite and like a rock for so long. So taking it as piece and piece, it will help, I think. Thank you.
Okay. Asif, you want to add something here?
Can you please let me know if you can explain what is the, like, I couldn't fully understand what she was saying. I think you can help, and then maybe if there's something I'll definitely add.
Okay, I'll read again.
Okay. Should I?
Okay.
I have answered Nali's comment. That and what Dr. Sheeva was saying. So we are looking at it from human rights angle, from labor angle, and also from Dr. Ambedkar's angle, while thinking that we just don't want that people just don't do this work. We want that people, really, we are also working with the children of sanitation workers. We want that they get education, so that even if they join this occupation, they would be more prepared how to negotiate for better work conditions, because we think that it's going on for millennia, and just all of a sudden it will stop. These people can't work. Also, one thing I didn't share, how it works, like why Christian people go into this work. This is very important. And why, meaning how society is invisibly, without making us realize how it is working, that people of certain background coming into this occupation. What our research is that there are two pushes. One is from society. For example, if I am Asif Masi, and so I go for a PN's job, a driver's job, or something, or in a kitchen, or something, anything else. And if I go and I give my identity card and they say, you don't worth it. Even all these occupations are of same category, they call the fourth grade jobs, but then they wouldn't like to have a Christian doing any other thing. They would ask them that you are only required for the sanitation work. And this was covered in our Pakistan story, and then in New York story back in 2019, that how society pushes. This is one push. Then the second push is when you are hired as a sanitation worker, you are forced to do this work without any safety equipment, training, protocols, safety protocols, or remuneration, the push is that you will be fired. You will be no more required to work. And how, on one side, the society is pushing these people into this work, and those who are hiring for this work, they force them that you will be left with no work. So these are the pull and push factors that needs to be understood. And then we need to work on those factors, which is why dignity, we are again and again saying that until the society is not accepting them in other occupations, just saying that they stop working, it won't work. It's rather leave them unemployed. It will just make cities more dirty. So that is that, at least that solution is not working in our case. So we need to work on these two aspects. I hope if it works. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you all the speakers and the attendees who asked the question and provoked this discussion. And so now this is a time of closing remark or reflection after the discussion. So discussion, we talked on the different issue, caste, religion, and labor and different perspectives. But definitely this problem, the sanitation workers problem, is not like the present or few years back problem. This problem is there since the humans start living on this earth and the civilization started expanding. After the urbanization, it became so kind of problematic, this sanitation workers problem. But that is another is a good factor that at least here in the Indian context, Britishers came and they institutionalized and legalized this system. And after that, this caste-based, the forced occupation became an occupation. Otherwise, it was a forced labor. And now the still the same problem is continuing, and the same occupational problem, same labor problem, same safety problem, and still we haven't come with certain kind of solution. And that is always, I find, very depressing, or very kind of, I feel where we are going. We are just studying, we are just analyzing, we are just promoting, or we are just discussing. But when will end this problem? And therefore, we need to find some kind of different alternatives to have a good solution to this problem. Because as and when the civilization happens, or even the corona time, the sanitation workers problem became very crucial, and it was a very dramatic situation of the sanitation workers. So any problems like flood comes, deluge comes, any situation comes, these are the people affected more. So, and their problems becomes more problematic. So we have to really work on it in a different angle, different perspectives, to find some solution. We understood the problem. Now we have to really work on the solution aspect. That's what this, I feel we have to conclude with this. And now uh, I give this discussion further to Mossy. Yeah, I think my part is over here. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Hamangi, and thank you so much to everybody. It feels like such a shame to have to close this very interesting and in parts quite challenging discussion. So I just wanted to finish by extending a huge thank you to all of our speakers today. Thank you to Dr. Sheeva, to Prabha, to Festo, to Asif, and of course to Dr. Hamangi for guiding us through that discussion for the final section. And I think many of the points that Hamangi has just summarised are going to be discussed in further detail as we go through this week. So just a reminder that there are more sessions happening this afternoon. including a networking coffee break in half an hour, which is an opportunity to connect with people working on similar or entirely different things from yourselves and make connections. We have a thematic session on the global histories of sanitation work at 2 p.m. GMT, before in conversation with pre-recorded talks, which are actually available at any time. And today we're encouraging you to join one with our very own Dr. Hamangi from the session today, and also an interesting pre-recorded video reflections from our photographer, Dr. C.S. Sharada Prasad, who will be discussing some of the issues that we were talking about on representation and use of imagery this morning. But a reminder as well to keep sharing your reflections, questions and comments on the Hoover platform, and engage with us and other participants on Twitter. But a huge thank you again for our session this morning, and I look forward to seeing everybody throughout other sessions this week. So thank you and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.